I started programming about 4 years ago, and in this time, my main programming language has been Python. Whenever I look back on my journey, it's very easy to see how inefficiently I learned, and it makes me ask the question, if I had to start over with what I know about programming today, how would I go about learning programming and becoming a full stack developer? So before you watch any further, it's really important that you know your goals with learning software development. It's 2023, and depending on your goals, you don't always want to be a jack of all trades or a full stack developer. So if your goal is to work for big Fortune 500 companies, they're going to have more money to spend than these smaller companies, so they're going to want masters of front-end or back-end development. They want excellence, which unfortunately you can't really have if you know everything. So a lot of companies, they're going to individually hire front-end and back-end, maybe data engineering, machine learning, and etc. So this video is mainly for self-taught developers, ones that want to learn full stack development to create their own projects or freelance, or otherwise people that just want to learn full stack development. So for the first 6 months of my journey, I was delayed, and it's a trap that a lot of developers get into, and that's following courses past the 1 month mark, excessively following courses. So I think that for the first month, it's okay to watch courses so you can see the process of writing code, but only to the degree of getting your initial programming knowledge. So I personally took a course, and I remember clearly that one of the things it taught you was object types. So lists, tuples, dictionaries, etc. And the issue was that this was before you even wrote code. You don't even understand the context of which you would use these types of objects, so in the end you just end up confused. Don't get trapped in the hole of being intimidated by writing code. Watch some courses for your first month and follow along in your own IDE. Then once you have the basics and can write simple code, I think you should for the most part ditch the courses. And in reality, I don't think this even solely applies to programming, but just memorizing or learning the material from courses or classes is generally not the best way to learn, and ultimately you're just going to waste time. Once you understand the bare bone basics, it's kind of like you want to approach it with a Montessori type of plan. You're hands-on and you're working on projects that you're interested in. With this approach, there's a drive to finish the project, and whenever you run into an issue, there's motivation to fix it, so you go on Stack Overflow, or nowadays you have ChatGPT explain it to you, and you can understand the issue to fix it, and with that, rapid learning and rapid growth takes place. I think it's very important to not overwork yourself. So something I personally do is when I want to learn a new skill, I end up trying to overcommit my time, and in the end, that just leads to burnout or me procrastinating my unrealistic expectations. So don't do that. Don't overcommit your time. Set a realistic goal every day to learn and to practice software development, maybe 30 minutes, an hour a day. And if you go over that, great, but don't force yourself to work too hard. And just realize that when it comes down to it, learning is your goal. And with goals, it's very important to enjoy the journey. So enjoy the journey. Once you have the basics of Python, you need to use that knowledge to naturally build more skill. So following the hands-on approach, the next step to do is to build a web app. So regardless of what its purpose is, it's going to require you to at least write HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you're going to have to learn a Python framework like Flask or Django to allow you to write the web servers. The most important thing you'll learn from this web app is JavaScript. And this is because according to Stack Overflow survey in 2020, JavaScript is the most popular language of 2020, and in my opinion, this has not been changing since, and there is data to back up that statement as well. So this does lead into a great question. If JavaScript is the most popular language, why Python and not JavaScript? So let's remember the scenario that I'm explaining this in. If I had to start over with what I know about programming today, how would I go about learning programming and becoming a full stack developer? So with having learned full stack development, I wanted to make this video to best explain the most efficient way to learn programming. So it's very important to note that at its core, programming languages are tools to use in different scenarios. So there will always be a trade-off in choosing a language, but Python is my choice I can fully support as a first language, because with Python, in this format that I'm telling you about, you can very easily convert it to JavaScript, HTML, and CSS knowledge, but not vice versa. So this may seem difficult or a lot to learn, but once you have learned Python or your first programming language, the way you write code will for the most part stay the same between all languages. So the only difference is going to be the syntax or the actual text you use to write the code. So on top of this, you already learned Python, so you have a better grasp of what you need to learn more languages and become proficient in other languages because you've done it once, so now you know what you need to know to program. Breaking through the first language is the hardest, but once you've broken through, learning gets much easier. And once you've learned JavaScript and Python and have created a few projects and apps using them, you should be at a point to start learning frameworks like React or React Native on your own, and you should be able to figure out the next logical steps in your journey to reach your goals. We've established that creating your own projects is the key to learning, but this is also going to be the key to you getting jobs, building a portfolio, and overall growing your career. So create your business idea, or if you don't have one, imitate softwares that have already been built and further build upon them. So you're going to want to put your entrepreneur hat on, think about what people use, and solve the common problems that exist in those services. So you don't need to make the next Facebook, but if you do and you beat him at becoming a billionaire at 23 years old, you can very kindly send me a check for whatever you feel is appropriate for me making this video. Thank you. But otherwise, you don't need to make the next Facebook. You just want to get your first job. Build up a portfolio with decent projects that you've created and realize that everything you further create is gaining you experience and putting you closer to your goals. So a big piece of advice I can give for sticking out in your portfolio is to build projects that have some real world use. So even if they won't widely be used, this is great when someone looks at your portfolio. It's a ginormous plus to see that you can build software that is applicable to the real world and in a way that just builds rapport to potential clients or employers that are looking at your services, because it really helps to stand out from others that are just cloning YouTube or Twitter without putting real substance into it. You also don't want to create something overly complex where a ton of errors or bugs or incompleteness is showing, because unfortunately it looks better to have a simple app working perfectly than a complex app working just okay. So demonstrate your ability to code, put your skills out there, and keep creating and learning. Do not stop creating. And don't forget, there's a ton of tools out there to help expedite your learning journey. There's always a huge community of others trying to learn programming just like you. And if you still can't find help with real people, there's always our great friend ChatGPT. So just remember, learning is growth. You know, the growth takes time and it's always a journey, so don't try to rush it. So with that, don't forget to like this video and I will see you in the next one.